foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you've begun to practice this exercise, much of what you hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
It's time for Advice Line. Call now at 800-866-8883. That's 800-866-8883. Here's your host, Roy Masters.
Hello, here I am again. Hello, welcome once again to the program, How Your Mind Can Keep You Well. Let's see, drinking in Santa Barbara. Drinking in Santa Barbara is the same as drinking in New York. Hello? Hello? Yes, sir.
The recent about smoking and drinking, I think, is very similar.
It is.
But I can't. My question for you, Roy, is that I see all these things bad about drinking, and where it's serving my ego and
all that sort of good
all
stuff.
those different things. And so what I've done is I have quit drinking by using willpower, and that, I know I shouldn't do that because I'm getting kind of a.
There's a better way, because you'll only go right back to it again or get onto something else. You'll have another problem if you use sheer guts, struggle, strain like you're going to the toilet. You know what I mean? That kind of thing, it's only going to create another problem. You didn't faint, did you?
No.
Okay.
I'm just trying to understand what it is.
There's a way of giving it up that doesn't involve will at all.
Okay.
And then
I desire to quit drinking.
Yes.
And I am becoming more and more aware of the things. I know that if I can, with my meditation has brought this.
Listen, some people are coffee achievers. You know what that means? Have you heard the commercial, Become a Coffee Achiever? Mm-hmm. It boosts your spirit. People need a drug to reject consciousness and to excite the energy and to give them the energy to accomplish, to reach beyond their grasp, which is really a forbidden thing. And then they become guilty, and then they'll drink coffee to achieve, and then they'll drink coffee not to feel guilty for achieving. And it's the same with drinking. Okay? Drinking, it starts with coffee, simple things like tea and coffee, and it goes on to other things. If you're an achiever. So therefore, there's two kinds of people who smoke and drink and take drugs. One is the kind of person who is a coffee achiever, and then he soothes the pain of achieving, because even if you succeed, you're still a failure. And if you're a failure, you're a failure, so you need consolation from your coffee again. And then later on, the same thing applies to harder drugs as you start to go down. Okay? So then there's another kind of person who is not an achiever so much. He's not so willful in of himself or herself. But they don't know how to deal with stress and cruelty, and they overreact to people, and they get very angry, and they become guilty that way. They get frustrated, hard on themselves, judgmental. It's a similar feeling as being an achiever and being a sinner by one's own willfulness, as it is to. It's because it's sin either way, and sin gives you the same feeling of inferiority, guilt, a feeling of failure no matter how hard you try, loss of control, anxiety, tension, and depression, that sort of thing. So therefore, one person smokes or drinks because he doesn't know how to get rid of the pain in any other way. And it enables him to function, but then he functions in the wrong way, and because he functions in the wrong way, he gets worse. Because the conscience is where it's at for you. And what you're doing is you're getting rid of your conscience because you don't understand the nature of your problem. Because conscience is trying to save you, but since pride has entered inadvertently it does when you are angry, just like pride enters when you're in a coffee achiever. It's the same spirit that gets inside you, and pride then becomes the enemy of truth. That's right, pride is the enemy of truth, and therefore it doesn't like the conscience. So it teaches you to feel better without your conscience. It teaches you to blow away your conscience, to deaden your conscience through drinking.
Right.
Follow that?
Yes.
So what you have to realize that, number one, it's easier for you to quit smoking or drinking than the coffee achiever, simply because you're not really a willful sinner. You love the truth, you want to find the truth, but you haven't understood how the lie has entered, because you have the same set of problems as a person who is very willful, a very willful coffee achiever, you see. So they all, both of you have the same problem with your conscience and deal with it in exactly the same way. You blow it, you deaden it. And that's not the answer. But your motive is purer than a coffee achiever. If you could find the truth, a better way to do it, you would. So I'm telling you, number one, your conscience is your salvation, but for the enemy within you, it is damnation. And you must not identify with the damnation of this other part of you that's made a home in you. This other part of you has control of you and makes you think the conscience is your enemy, and it teaches you how to go to such substances as drinking and smoking in order to feel good about yourself.
Right. Well, at the end of the day, it's like it's to feed. I feel like it's going to feed me.
Exactly. It's going to sustain you.
It's going to sustain me. So I say, no, I'm not going to.
You can't do that. You can't say.
They say, I don't need that drink. I know what it is. It's something in order to keep its control over me.
Yeah, I know, but what you have to understand is that you can't say no to God.
Right.
And that is your God, the spirit of the drink. It's not the chemistry of the drink that's so important, any more than in the Garden of Eden, it was the forbidden fruit that had the power to deliver the man's soul to glory. It was the lie that lurks behind the experience. See, that's what you're renewing yourself. You see, men are spiritual beings as well as physical beings, you see. So that when men are addicted to something that's different from an animal being addicted, we have guilt involved where animals don't have any such thing. Follow? Animals have all kinds of needs you can pervert in the laboratory and things like that. But human beings do this in ignorance, and they do it voluntarily too. They make a choice between good and evil, between two spirits that wait upon us when we come in the world. See? And the spirits of in the world, they seduce us either to be achievers, and if they can't get us that way, they'll make us think there's something wrong with us and degrade us and try to upset us and be cruel to us. A lot of children, when they come into the world, they come into a cruel environment, and they're like, they're like the ugly duckling. The story of the ugly duckling. And he later discovered he was a beautiful swan, and he tried to be like everyone else, and he couldn't make it. They still wouldn't accept him. So a lot of people come into the world like you and me, and we're not really like everybody else. We're from another planet, so to speak, and we have this innocence in us, and it threatens everybody around us, and they destroy us. They're cruel, and we get upset, and we get angry. We start to resent everybody. Then we try to get them to accept us, and then we do dumb things, and we sink even lower. And that doesn't do it either. And then we turn to alcohol to deaden our conscience. And we don't realize that we've been tricked into being like one of them. See that? Mm-hmm. But even so, the spirit inside you that has tricked you on the outside is now on the inside, still tricking you. And you've identified with what it needs to survive. And what it needs to survive kills you, the real you. But it's grown to become part of you, so much of it, that you follow what it feels. And what it needs is what you need. And you can't separate what you want from what it needs. And its needs are stronger than what you really want. See? And then you may struggle with yourself and resent your own self. But the resenting yourself is not the struggle. It only makes you give in to yourself. The struggle of will always cause you to give in to the will. The stronger will, which is the sin part of you, see? So what I'm trying to say, there's a better way of dealing with this alcoholism or smoking, other than will, it's called realization. And as I'm talking to you now, I'm asking you now not to struggle anymore, because you're getting involved emotionally with yourself, the self that has control over you. If you struggle with yourself, you're trying to save yourself, and you cannot save yourself. That's only more pride, and more pride will grow up in you. You see.
I see the pride coming in because I feel better about myself that I'm not drinking, and I'm saying that that's
there it is.
The wrong direction.
Yes, that's right. And then pretty soon the pride itself will cause you to think to yourself, it may go like this. He says, well, I haven't drank for 2 weeks. I proved to myself I can go without drinking. You go right back to drinking again.
Well, that's what I did already once. I quit for a while, and then all of a sudden I said, well, I can be a social drinker because of the
No, your pride fools you.
And the next thing I know, I'm off drinking worse than I was before I quit the first time.
But you see, you get a certain. If I bet you $1,000 you couldn't stop drinking, and you would have you could all of a sudden the desire to drink would disappear, because you have the goal of the $1,000 you're going to achieve, and the sense of achievement of that will satisfy you more than what you get.
$1,000, I may go back to drinking.
Yeah, after you get your $1,000, you see. But if I made it $1 million, you'd have the motivation, you'd have the goal to achieve something, to prove to me that I'm wrong about you and that you're right about yourself. You're involved in something now, you see, and it's the same as any kind of goal. As long as you're moving towards something, as long as you have hope in something, it inspires, and it's like a drink. But when you get there, you find it's not what it's cracked up to be, and then you feel betrayed, and then you got resentment. And then you got drinking. Got it? So I understand all those games. You have to get up early in the morning. I know all the games that this thing plays with you. And you see, here you are. You're in Santa Barbara and I'm in Los Angeles. And what we have is the same spirit you're doing business with, because I know how it works in you. Is if you're in San Francisco, it wouldn't make much difference. Right. It's the same. It's the same spirit. And every time you drink, you're rejecting God.
I see that.
And you're renewing the fallen self.
But I just can't seem to.
I know, but let me tell you about you. I don't know about your lifetime. I don't have all the time to dissect you on the radio. Okay. This you'll have to do yourself. But you have to decide: are you a coffee achiever? If not, then if you're not one kind of person who loves glory and wants to get money and riches and power, and whether you be a great violinist or whatever, a great chef. If you're not that kind of person, perhaps your mother is living through you. Maybe somebody who's put ambition into you that gave you anxiety and conflict in that way. And if not, then perhaps simply resenting people has made you become guilty and made you need to deaden your conscience with drink. And if that's the case, the only thing you have to learn to do is see who it is you have to forgive.
Okay, but what do I do in the meantime? Do I continue to drink?
No, in the meantime, understand that. Don't struggle. No. If you understand not to struggle, to realize that the struggle itself is part of willfulness, the evolution of willfulness and guilt. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You see, because if you succeed, you go back to it.
Right.
And if you don't succeed, you don't succeed. You see what I'm saying? It's a vicious cycle. It's a trap. The secret is to let God's will function. And as long as you are struggling, His will can't save you. Yeah. See, as long as you're trying to save yourself, pride will always try to save itself. I've always said you can rebel against God, but you can't rebel against the devil. Mm-hmm. See, what you're doing is rejecting the truth through drinking. You have to understand that you're actually escaping from the truth, from having to face yourself. The face that you're a loser, that you can't even stop drinking, let alone deal with the problems of life. And that's pride escaping, rejecting reality. See, it feels comfortable, it doesn't want to feel the pain of knowing what an insignificant failure it is. And I'm asking you now if you could just learn to stand firm and be a man and bear the pain and not resent knowing the truth.
Well, the thing is, I do see that, but I still get the cravings. I see that.
You'll have the cravings, but you'll let them pass. You'll be able to let them pass. See,
Okay.
you'll be able to. You'll have the craving.
That because I can just when they get there, I can see what it is, and then they will pass.
They will. That's right. Exactly.
Just a couple minutes. It's like I get the craving, and it may be there for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, but if I watch it and just look at it, it'll pass.
They're good. And you do it now. Do it with everything that way. Do the same thing with resentment. And resentment is like a drink too. The drink tempts you to have a feeling.
Right.
The drink tempts you to have a craving, the presence of a drink, the thought of it. But it's the same thing with people you hate. The thought of them will make you have a feeling that you must give into, which is judgment. See, so you must now become aware and take your awareness into life with you, and wherever you go, there are people who tempt you. There are people who drink and want you to drink. There are people who are cruel that want you to hate them.
Right.
You're going to take this awareness and just let that feeling of a resentment pass, and that your love of drinking would disappear. See, your love-hate relationship, your need for pleasure, love, consolation, arises mostly from one ambition, two, resentment. So the more you resent somebody, the more you feel guilty for that, the more you need love to assuage the guilt. And that may take the form of drinking or smoking or sex or something, or friendships. Hold the line a minute. Are you following me so far?
Yes.
Okay. This is program 2945, and these hours pass so quickly. 2945. Please put the call letters on the check, and please send a check when you write. Don't send a thank you note. We've got to have something tangible. This is program 2945. And now we're going to take a station break, and we'll be